all come back to the place that we know, and we all come back and stand just to hear your words come tumbling out, and it's then we understand.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to our first ever Digital Diaries. And I'm now going to come across and I'm going to introduce our very first guest. That is none other than Mr. Taus Laurie from Inches Primary. So good afternoon, Taus.
Hello, Robert.
This is almost seamless. That was almost as if we had it planned and rehearsed.
Indeed.
Yeah. So this is our very first Digital Diaries, and the purpose of it really is just to get a chance to speak to the people in Highland who are making a huge difference across Highland in terms of digital learning, both in Taus's case during lockdown, but also before that, and I'm quite sure as we move on when schools return as well. So just a nice chance to chat and get some more ideas about your digital vision and just really where you think things are going. So first question, really nice and easy, is just really to ask you, what's your sort of introduction? Where's your background? Where are you from? The schools you've worked at, and what took you to Scotland, I guess?
Okay, yeah. So, my name is Taus Laurie. I'm currently PT at Inches Primary School in Inverness. I have been working as a teacher for close to 10 years now. And approximately 5 years ago, I moved to Scotland. Before that, I was in Denmark, where I'm from as well, where in Denmark I taught secondary school in history and social science and politics and economics. But then in 2015, we moved to the UK, and we started working in various different schools across Scotland. I've been using G Suite both in the secondary schools in Denmark when I taught there, and then in 2017 when we had the big rollout in the Highlands, we started introducing, and I've been using G Suite since then. So I'm quite familiar with G Suite and how to use it, and that is very much my background in terms of using it to.
And at Inches, you are principal teacher, is that right?
Yes, so principal teacher at Inches, but not anything to do with digital, funny enough.
Yeah, that's interesting. How does that work? How's the dynamic of that? I don't mean the politics, but how does that work in terms of, is it quite nice to focus on something else?
It's quite good because you can still use the digital technologies and the different G Suite tools within various other things. So my remit is practice respecting school and the behavior policy. And what we have been using it for is, for example, creating Google Forms that create surveys. We have made a lot of different sharing points. There is a live website about the rights respecting school and our whole approach to it, and all that is done through G Suite. So it's quite nice to be able to facilitate the use of the different digital tools without having to actually necessarily have it as your focus.
Yeah.
So that's quite good.
So in terms of, I suppose thinking about digital skills now, and you've kind of introduced, your sort of, I guess your brief understanding of digital skills, and I think those that know you will know that your knowledge of G Suite is almost second to none, and digital drop-ins that we do, you are a massive part of that just because of your knowledge and the ability to actually be able to solve problems. But how would you sort of sum up your digital skills? I mean, I know you've got some certification. Is it all Google? What else have you got in terms of a sort of formal qualifications, I guess?
If we have to talk about formal qualifications, then I only have the Google. So when I say only, then it's the Google Certified Educator Level 1 and 2. And I'm also a Google Certified Trainer, which basically just means that you have been through the G Suite training that Google provides. And it gives you a certification that you are able to teach using the G Suite, but also being a Google Certified Trainer means that you can go out officially and produce training that is linked directly to Google. So use Google's name as such to promote your own training as well. So,
and do you find the Google? Do you think that, I know it's a certification, but do you actually find that the process of going through that certification is useful? I guess there'll be people watching today thinking, I've heard about Google level 1, level 2. Is it actually worth it? Do I get anything out of it? What would you say to that?
I think that the whole process, the training process, is really good, and of course I encourage as many people as possible to go in and try and do it. There is an exam to be sat at the end of it, but actually all the training is free, so you can access all the training for free, and you can upskill yourself to a certain point without having to take the exam and thereby not get the certification. But I would definitely encourage anyone to go in and do it. I think the downside to it is it's very American orientated, and sometimes there's some questions where you're thinking, that's not particularly relevant to me. But to give you a good overview, I think that's really good. What I really like about the exams is that you get a practical side as well as a theoretical side, which means that you actually have to go in and use the knowledge that you have been taught throughout the sessions and the training, so that you can actually prove that you can actually manage to do it in practice. So I really like that aspect of the exams.
And do you have any plans to sort of venture into the likes of the Microsoft training or any of the Apple training?
Not the Apple training. Potentially the Microsoft training might be quite interesting, just to see some different aspects as well, and see how they're doing things slightly different, and potentially if you can combine some of the same things. I think there is a lot of certifications out there, so it's really picking what you want to do. And I was also thinking that before I even did the level 1, which I did a year and a half ago or something like that when I look back at it now, actually I was using all the same tools, so it was practically just having a certificate that said I could do it.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the certificates, it's whether or not you want to have that official certificate, or you are happy with just going along with what you're capable of.
Yeah, well, having just done level 1 myself quite recently, I thought I probably should do it. Yeah, I would agree that actually the pre-work, if you're new to it, is quite useful, the sort of preparation for the exam. So yeah, definitely if anyone's watching it thinking, do I give it a go? You can do the kind of pre-work and almost get a feel for whether or not you think you're ready for it. If I was to kind of walk into your, and I have done this already, so it's a bit of a kind of misleading question, but if I was to walk into your classroom, what would be the standout digital, I suppose, digital processes, approaches, strategies that I would see?
So if you walked into my classroom, and not my lockdown classroom, but generally my actual classroom, what you would see is the use of digital technology is actually in use almost in every single lesson. And the reason for that is because I feel that it's a good way of facilitating teaching, that I can be teaching a group, for example, and at the same time I could technically be teaching another group by, for example, uploading a video before the lesson starts that they could then go away and watch. And then when they come back to me, then we can go through the practical things and actually get further into depth with how we actually solve the issues. So they have the more theoretical as video format, and then they will have the more sort of in-depth and the teaching part, focusing on their skills and their work that they're trying to complete. Other than that, you will see lots of different features, lots of apps, websites being used. We have been working across different schools in our class, creating Google Sites, working in Google Sheets, especially because the Highland Council have pushed out G Suite. So it's mainly that we have been using. But you can see that across the classroom.
And if you were to go, I mean, how would you rate, I know it's difficult because it's not a scale, but how would you rate the digital literacy skills of the children in your class? Because a lot of people think that if you take away, if you like, gaming and social media, how skilled are they actually digitally? What would you say about your class?
I think it's getting there. What I mean by that is I think that a lot of teachers and a lot of staff in general can be very good at using G Suite, but there is also a whole element of teaching G Suite and teaching the features within G Suite, and I think that's something that takes quite a while, and you have to get used to actually going in and teaching them. It's not enough to just sit down and say, oh, we have a lesson here that says something about numeracy, and I have created a Google Sheet, and now you have to go in and do it. Actually, you need to teach your class the basics of Google Sheets before you can even go in and start that. So I think that's really, really important. And you can see that they're slowly getting into the rhythm of using the different things, and once they've got the basis, then slowly they get up there. So I think, like, if I should rate my own class, I would say we are at probably around an 8. There's always room for improvement, even for myself. Like, I'm really struggling with certain aspects of G Suite, and what I mean by struggling, I mean like there's always more to learn, and there's certain things that we need to do. And now Robert has left the meeting. That's rather interesting. We are still recording, however. So this is quite good. Another aspect of it is also that, hello, Robert, you're back.
Yes. Yeah. Did you continue speaking?
Yeah, I just continue. So
Professional.
yeah, the last comment in terms of that is also the fact that the kids are becoming more and more familiar with using G Suite and becoming digital literate by teaching other kids. So this means that, for example, our primary sixes, they have been around to various different other classes in the school, and actually teaching them how to use certain apps and certain features within G Suite. And I think those sessions are really, really beneficial for the kids, and getting them more confident in using G Suite because they're having to teach someone else how to use it.
Perfect, thank you. And as I say, consummate professional, continuing when I suspect one of my children went onto the Xbox. In terms of, I suppose, innovation and creativity, what's the kind of standout example? I'm thinking maybe, is it something that you did at the very beginning of your sort of move towards embedding digital learning, or is it something more recent? But what's that moment where you actually think back and think, wow, using technology made a difference?
I think there's a lot of things like that. I think you slowly learn as you go along. I think in the beginning I thought, oh, we can do this and we can do that and we can do all sorts of different things. But then as I went along, I thought, like, okay, there's actually an easier way here. And it's just constantly like learning new things and learning how to make the best use of G Suite. I think I really like the fact that we have created the basic fact tracker, the fact that you don't have to actually input a paper format or make copies or anything like this, and you will have all the recordings, you will have all the scores and so on in one system, and you don't have to chase it up or anything like that. Like, I think things like that is really good. I like using
the basic
sheets
facts
for
tracker is
anything.
brilliant. I mean, I was going to say the basic facts tracker is a really powerful tool. And if anybody's not seen that, I think there's a training session on the Digital School Hub, which talks about how to use it. And it's a great example, I think, of innovation. I mean, I think it's definitely a go-to strategy. It's making use of those skills to make learning and teaching easier for you and more effective. I was actually going to ask, my next question was going to be, if you were, and I'm going to ask this to everybody that does these interviews, if there was one thing you wanted to show, to share your screen, what would be one thing that you'd want people to see, almost as a kind of a headline of, look what this can do? And it could be transformational or it could be something simple. What would that be?
I am a huge fan of Google Sheets. And it's also the most difficult thing to use. But don't be thrown off. Like, you just start slow. But like, what I would show is definitely, I would show like Google Sheets, and if you're happy for me to do, then I can go in and show
say, do you want
some various different things.
Yeah, please do.
So it's just going to be brief, and I think what I will do is I will show some of the more basic things, and then you can always go in and experiment. And that's the great things about Google Sheets, is that you can go in and do this. That's the wrong tab. There we go. So just to show a few things, like what I really like is that you have such basic things. So just having this, like for example, timetables, and you can just go in and make your own timetables and drag them out so that they become nice and neat and tidy. And then you could go in and put in your 1, 2, 3, and so on. Like simple things like this really makes a difference, I think, for like what you're doing. And it's just like simple tools, and you don't have to do much about it, but.
So is that self-correcting there? When you put the wrong number in, it would correct that because of the way it was set up?
Yeah, this is doing is just like, it's just showing the fact that I can drag out. So by me dragging here, you can see that I have just in less than a few seconds created the times tables. And that's just by dragging. I can drag dates the same way, like in terms of like having them. Let's say this Tuesday the 19th today. So let's input that, right? And we just have that, and then we just drag it, and then we have the date. So there's minimum work to do with it. I also like the fact that you can go in and have like translate and use some of the different formats. So for example, if I had the Danish in one side here and the English in the other, all I would need to do is just input the format, and then it translates it for me. So that's lots fantastic. Of features like that. Now there's amazing things like creating formative conditional formatting with different heats, colors, and so on. I like the whole I like budget things here, where like you can create like a worksheet for them, and all they would need to do now is like they would have to go in and take the various different things and say, okay, I want to buy this, and they can see they have the £1,200, and every time I put something in here, what's going to happen is that this down here, we can go in and say sum, and we want to sum this up, or we want to sum it up from 6, and you can see that now it's automatically spent £25. It says here that there is this amount of money left, and then if I drag more things in here, then you can see that obviously my budget is going to change. And just simple things like this gives the kids the opportunity to play around with it and experiment a bit, because they can obviously just take it out again, and then they can try a different format. So it gives you some options that you don't have in paper format, and you just don't have in paper copy in general.
And how much work does it take to get these set up? I mean, obviously don't go into detail, but just how, like an example like that, how long would that take for you to get set up?
So the first time you do it, it will take a wee while, because it is getting used to how to do the various different things. But once you know the basics, so for example, this one, because I know all the formulas, and the formulas are super simple. It's not complicated things I have been using. It's like sum this column up, and it's taking some information, for example, from here. I wanted to take this particular amount in my B4, and just take away the total spent, and then it will come up to here. And I think this particular sheet for me, it will take me less than 5 minutes to set up. And the thing is, you can get the pupils to input the data if you wanted them to, because what I had with this particular task is I had them put in their own ones. So this means that they went in, that was their first task. They had to go in and set up, I want to have an ice cream. And once they put in ice cream and they put in the price of the ice cream, let's say it costs £5, and we go back into our other sheets here, you will see that it has appeared down here. So this means that they are doing the work. They are setting up all the things. I just need to make sure that the formulas feed into each other. And I think that's the power behind Google Sheets, and that's really an amazing tool.
So it's quite intuitive. That's brilliant. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And if people wanted to find out more about Google Sheets, I think you've got training as well on the Digital Hub, don't you?
I do indeed. There is some training going on there as well.
Yeah, which is fantastic. Okay, a couple of last questions for you. I suppose that it would be daft not to ask about lockdown just now and the difference it's made. And actually, I wonder if it has made a difference to the way that you have made use of digital skills, because I think you're in that probably smallish group of people who were making really effective use of it anyway. But how would you describe the difference in digital learning during this lockdown period?
Yeah, as I definitely, it's different. It's more like, I don't get me wrong. Like, I love the digital learning and digital tools and so on, but it's very different to your classroom. In classroom, you can go and help. You can also have some off-screen time, of course. So like the kids like have that intense one-to-one in classrooms, and you don't really have the same options online. What it has made me do is it has made me come up with some more creative ways of using digital tools, like, for example, creating breakout rooms for numeracy. It has made me made use of G Suite as a whole thing, and not just like the individual tools, much more. For some pupils, I think this has increased engagement, and for others it has decreased. So it very much depends on the pupils as well. It's a tricky situation. It's very tricky, but I definitely think that G Suite has enabled us to do it in a better way than if we hadn't been able to use G Suite.
Oh, absolutely, no question at all. And because of the support and the sort of expertise that the likes of yourself and others have had as well. I suppose my final question is, and we all obviously realize that not everybody's at the same stage in terms of digital learning, in terms of confidence or expertise. If somebody, did catch you and said to you, Taus, I'm really keen to get going with this, but I just don't think I've got enough confidence. What would you say in terms of reassurance? What would be your sort of motto as to how someone can get going on the same journey that you've been on?
Start slow. Take your time. Don't rush into it. We all start slow. We all need to learn. I think we have a fantastic network of quite capable people across Highlands. So don't be afraid of asking, even if it's not necessarily some of the experts, if you can call anyone that, but like just your colleagues, even your pupils might be able to help you out. I think using the pupils and using staff members, other staff members, would be a huge benefit for anyone. I would also generally say Google is your best friend in this way, because you can Google anything. Like, if you're unsure how to do something, just Google it, and you will actually find most of the answers, or you will find forums where other people have had the same questions that you are having. So that's definitely something to do. We're all learning all the time, so just take it slow.
Oh, that's great advice. And what I would say, and it's not a plug for the place that Taus and I go on every day, Monday to Thursday at 3 o'clock, but our digital drop-ins are a great place. And what we're seeing is where people come along and perhaps not feeling very confident, but eventually get the confidence to ask a question, and we can screen share and show people how to actually do something. We should have kept track of the number of problems we've solved, but it's been, be quite high numbers. And I think if you are sitting listening or watching this thinking, how do I find out more information? Just come along to one of the digital drop-ins at 3 o'clock and just join the chat and find out some more. Well, thank you so much, Taus, for joining us at our first ever digital diary. Hopefully it wasn't too traumatic for you.
No, thank you for having me.
No, hopefully I managed to stay reasonably on script. That'll probably degenerate into complete and utter free lib by the time I come to number 3 or number 4. But for now, that was really structured. So no, thank you so much for doing that. And hopefully we'll see you all again at some other point on our next Digital Diaries. Thanks, Taus.
No problem.
Thank
Bye.
you.